Hey, how you doing to Observations from the Front Porch with the original black nerd? How you doing? All right, today this is my okay boomer in the YouTube comic book Wonderland. Yes, I went down the rabbit hole. So this is a little bit about the story of how I ended up here. When I first started watching YouTube, I was doing the basic YouTube watching stuff that, people that like my age do. Yeah, I watch it for a reason. I will watch videos either for the classes that I teach. I will watch videos for the sports that I coach. I would watch videos for things I wanted to fix. That was, all the reasons I would watch YouTube. Occasionally I will watch some of the political shows, but not much. But with our preventive measures that were put in place when the pandemic hit, I had a lot of open time with schools being closed, with sports being suspended. I had a lot of free time, and all of my TV shows, they had ended. All of the streaming services, every action movie I've seen. I watch a lot of movies over my years. So I had a lot of free time, so I started watching YouTube for entertainment. And down the rabbit hole I went. I already started thinking about it a little bit, like when I started the collection. When I started thinking about the collection, the OBN collection, as you know, is a collection of artifacts that represent the Black experience in comic books, and I'm trying to document that through artifacts. So I was down at the Reginald F. Lewis Museum of African American History in Baltimore, my hometown, and I went to the exhibit called Empowered, and it was about a superhero exhibit. And as I went down to the museum, one of the benefits of my ninth career life as a Baltimore County public school teacher is that teachers get an opportunity to go into the museum for free. So that was a benefit. So I went down, checked out the museum. I hadn't been down there for a while, so I checked out all the different things in the museum. And I got down to the exhibit, and the exhibit had, it was interesting. It had a few items and stuff. And on my way riding home, I said, I need to have a better representation just from my perspective of what our experience has been in the comic book world. So I decided to start the OBN collection. So now, one of the things that I realized that, at some point you become your parents. And the Home Shopping Network discovered something way back in the 80s, that people that were at home, seniors that had disposable income and a telephone, they could buy stuff. And my parents and grandparents were fascinated that they could just order stuff on they see on TV and call it up on the phone and it get delivered to them. So I realized that when I started my collection, and I started to buy items. So I was an eBay, Amazon buying fool. The pandemic had me at home, disposable income, and I got into it. So every time I would order, I would research for the website. I would go and find an artifact for that character. So, which was an interesting beginning, because then I started kind of watching YouTube, and I started watching stations that were talking about the shows I watched. Like I was an Arrowverse. I'm an Arrowverse fan, so I watch Green Arrow and Flash and Black Lightning and Legends of Tomorrow, and all of those shows I would watch, so I started watching shows that were related to those, and I started watching like Pagey. Then that led me to Emergency Awesome, and then all of a sudden my feed, alternative factual shows up about Black Lightning, and I'm a Black Lightning fan, huge. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch this station, so a channel. So I watched the channel, and then all of a sudden here comes Blurred Without Fear showing up, and Comics Explained showing up. So I started watching them. I was like, oh man, wow. And so as I started researching more and more and more on these different characters, and I started finding out what's the different characters, then I came across the channels like Dope Spill and Variant and MYE and Panther God, and they would do highlights on Black characters, and I was like, oh, okay, boom. So I was connecting my website into those, and linking out. So I would say, you come to the website, you would be able to want more information. You could link to these stations, these channels. So I was watching that, then I just started watching different fun things. Then I came across like the top 10s, and then I came across Casually Comics, and that whole different way of looking at it in a little quirky way that she does it, and I loved it, so I started watching that. And then, Comics Explained led me into Comic Historian, and the whole way that he does, his dramatic presentations of comic books, and I just started getting into that. So I fell into what I call, I'm all the way down the rabbit hole at this point. YouTube is my number one station. My recently accessed apps, is in YouTube. I watch this more than anything. So I'm hooked. So I fall down in what I call the 7 realms of YouTube comic book Wonderland. Okay, so it was funny because I get down there. So after I go through all these things, and I find that it's like, okay, realm 1 would be like your 411 people. These are people that tell you about the rumors. They tell you about what's being greenlit, what's in development. What actors have been brought in. All of this stuff that's important information for all the other realms in comic book Wonderland. But they just give you information on it. And so you watch that, and you want to know what's coming out in the movies, TV, all these greenlit projects. 411 realm is where you want to go hang out in. So boom. So then the next realm, I call this my collector's realm. Now these are the people that, they show you their collections, they show you, things that they bought that week for from the comic book shop. They talk a little bit about speculating, but they really talk a lot more about their collections and how they found it and whatever reason they collecting. So these are just, your regular day people who just show you that stuff online, which I'm fascinated by. And so then the next realm that I fall into, I call these the Samaritans. These are people that come on, and a lot of them are comic book shop owners, and they'll do like preview shows and tell you what's coming out on Wednesday, what you should look for in the comic book shop. They're not so heavy on, speculation part of it, but just more, come check out this comic book. Here's a new comic book coming out, and they show you the different covers and that kind of thing. They provide information along that line. So that's like my third realm, is the Samaritans, And then, you fall into the biggest realm, and I call this my talkers, the talking realm. It's a subject that goes on, they got an opinion on it. And it's like, watching, the whole Fox News, MSNBC, CNN thing, in a microcosm online. So it's fascinating to me because I like just watching. I like seeing people and how they react and people's reactions and how they see things and different perspectives. I just like that kind of stuff. But the talkers are broke down into 2 different groups. One of the groups, the bigger group, is the culture warriors. Like they go to war on anything it has is relevant to something that's going on in society, and they just go off on that, and they, you go back and forth, and you got this camp over here and this camp over there, and all this stuff going on. So then you have a smaller group of talkers, which I like to call the analysts. They break everything down by the numbers. This is the numbers here, this is what's happening here, this is what sales of those, this is what's this going on here, this is some corporate action on this. They give you a whole perspective from the comic book industry, and they talk about that. But okay, boomer moment is that when I first got online, I started commenting. So I got my regular station, then I got the original Black Nerd station, then I got the collection channel. So I got a lot of channels now. So I go to different channels. But when I first started, I was just going back to channel. So I go to, and I comment on Ironheart, and how I like the character and whatever. And somebody commented that I was a SJW. Now, I know it said SJW, but at first, I for some reason, I kept saying SWV. And I said, well, why are they talking about a female singing group? But then, as I saw more and more videos, I realized that it stood for Social Justice Warrior. So then I was like, well, okay, I'm a black guy. I was born in the 50s. It was segregation, when I was a kid. If you wasn't a social justice warrior, you have your black card revoked. So I didn't understand. But then I realized it was an insult. And I said, oh, okay, that's what it is. So it's cool. It was a learning experience, but it was funny. I don't, titles and names, that doesn't affect me one bit. So that was just a little side movement. You know how old people do. We kind of go to the side sometimes. But anyway, getting back to my realm. So we got the 411 realm. We got, where the people just give me all this information about what's going on with the rumors and what's greenlit and what's in development and what's in discussions and all of these things. And they got backstories, and they got people that release from inside information, all that good stuff. So then, like I said, you got the second realm with the collectors. They show you all this stuff. I've been collecting this. This is what I got in my long box. This is what I got in my short box. This is what I built on my collection. This is what I got on Wednesday. Boom. I got all those. You got the people in the Samaritans in round 3 that say, oh, boom. Okay, here's what's coming out. If you want to buy this, you should look for this. Here's some new stuff. Check it out. Then we got our talkers, like I just talked about, cultural warriors, analysts, doing their thing. And then we have the next round, which I call the griots, or the storytellers. And they just break down the comic book stories, your comic book series, your comic book arcs, character development, all these things interrelated. You want to know backstories. You want to know interrelationships. Man, I spent so much time watching those. It was crazy. I caught up on all the things that I wasn't reading during 90s, early 2000s when I was off doing other stuff with family, career, all those other development things. But I caught up with all the stories, all the backstories, all the interrelationships. So I know the griots, I love it. It's like my Audible for comic books, So it's cool. So then, that's your round 5, and then round 6 though. That's where the big dogs go, man. That's the speculators. Those are the people that come down. They will give you pre-order shows, but they tell you pre-orders, months in advance, telling you what's coming out, who characters are coming, what's going to be a key issue. This is where people, they know everything, who the artists, what the artists, how many times they've done it, how many issues were run, how many, how much is available in different markets, what the different grades are, all that stuff. and they talk, and this is, like I said, this is the top of the food chain. This is where the serious people go. And so, there's several channels on that. So, that's kind of how I look at I watch those stations to find out which comic books I'm going to buy for the speculating part of it. So that was fascinating. And then my final realm is, I call it the affiliated. Okay, and the affiliated realm is like everything else, your toys, graphic novels, novelties, all the other stuff that goes along with, action figures, statues, figurines, all the other stuff that goes along with the comic book world, but aren't comic books. So, I go down the 7 realms. That's my 7 realms. That's my trip that I have been on for a while. Not for a while, for basically since real heavy since March, and I've been in the comic book Wonderland. And it was an experience that I obviously have enjoyed, because here I am. Okay, boomer, in the comic book YouTube Wonderland. I love it, and I'm looking forward to great things. I hope you enjoyed this little talk about what I did and my observation from the front porch. Check out obncollection.org to see all my stuff on my online museum. And when the COVID situation comes out, hopefully we'll get to put it out and people get to see it in person. Like they say, like, subscribe, comment, share, notification bell, all those different things that I always forget to think about. Have a great time, and thank you for coming. Peace. Alternative factuals, Blur Without Fear, Comics Explained, Casually Comics, Dope Spell Comics, Panther Guard Comics, NYE Comics, Comic Storian, Emergency Awesome, Pagey, Variant Comics, Afro Futurism Network, Afro Nerd Radio, Approach the Nerd, Black Tribbles, Black Nerd Comedy, Black Girl Nerds, Attack of the Blurs, Blurs and Whiskey, Blurs in the Hood, Chillmonger, I Am Black Sci-Fi, Momentum Medium, Nerd Soul, New Sage, Power Impact Comics, Reggie Collects, Some Black Super Nerd Video, TK Blur, That Indie Comics Guy, Kermit Wonder, The Blurger, Woke Nation, Young Ripper 59, Comic Consultant, Comics with Bueller, Economics in Comics, JP Budget Comic Collecting, Keynote Comics, Long Box Love Affair, Sell My Comic Books, Simple Man Comics, Speak Geek Unlimited, We Love Comics, CBSI presents Tales from the Flip Side, Comic Book University, Comic Book Ranting, comicbook.com, Comic Book Cast 2, Comic Tropes, DC Kids,